Welcome to CXWise, where we share wisdom, insights, stories, and expertise from the world of customer experience. I'm your host, Nate Bennett, and you're about to hear real-world experiences and practical advice that will elevate your CX game no matter your title, no matter your industry. So, without further ado, let's get wise. My guest today is Seana Siekman, Vice President of Analytics and Optimization at Athena Global Advisors. Athena is a firm known for helping some of the world's most recognizable brands protect their reputation, navigate high-stakes moments, and unlock the power of data-driven strategy. At Athena, Seana leads the charge on social intelligence and real-time insights, helping brands stay ahead of risks and transforming digital noise into clear, actionable decisions. With a background spanning forensic analytics to marketing optimization, Seana brings a sharp eye for detail and a passion for storytelling through data. I can't wait to dive into the wisdom she's gathered from working behind the scenes of major campaigns and crisis moments and hear her take on what it really means to listen to your customers today. Seana, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Nate, and thank you for that wonderful intro.
Absolutely. Before we get started, for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with Athena, I wonder if you could sort of unpack what Athena does and who their clients are.
Of course. So we define ourselves as a marketing consultancy, but really creative agency meets management consulting. We have a full in-house creative studio. We have a really robust program management team that does a lot of things like product launches, change management, events and experiences, more traditional and digital marketing, and then, of course, our analytics practice, where we do a lot of work focused in social listening and media monitoring and really helping brands understand what data they need to effectively manage their reputation and drive their strategies forward.
That's great.
And we do a lot of work in media, entertainment, and telecommunications, the NFL, Comcast. We work in the automotive space, broader transportation sector. So we have our toes in a lot of spaces from an industry perspective, but get to work with a lot of really fun brands and help them evolve.
That's great. One of the questions that we always like to start with on the show is we'd like to ask our guests what their definition of customer experience is. So how do you define customer experience today?
Every touch point with a brand. And I think this is rapidly evolving, but there's still a quick default to customer experience really being about the care side and what those interactions look like. And so much more goes into that. And both the intentional as well as the unintentional interactions with a consumer. So seeing a billboard, seeing an ad, seeing a frustrated post from a colleague or friend, having your own experiences, good and bad. So really that holistic view of the marketing, the sales, and then when you're actually a consumer, that ongoing day-to-day interaction, whether it's actually directly with the brand or just as you're going about your life and absorbing info about the companies that you spend your money at.
I think it's interesting you said intentional and unintentional. What do you mean by unintentional?
So I think the intentional is easy. You're making a purchase.
Sure.
You need support. You're changing your service. You're making another purchase. The unintentional, I think, is sort of where you absorb or you understand, and you may not think about it, right? You may not process that I'm collecting a data point in my mind about this company, but over time those add up. And if you have enough unintentional interactions, again, that the person sitting at the desk next to you had a really bad experience. You haven't sought out that information, but it adds up to how you think and feel about that company. And same thing with those positive interactions. I think that people talk about those. And sadly, it tends to be because it's surprising of like, wow, I actually got really good help, or this was such a cool tech-driven process to do X, Y, and Z. But all those moments add up. And so when you're thinking about a brand, it is about truly more than your one-to-one experience with them, but all of those different places that you have crossed paths with that company over the course of a month or a year.
No, I love that. I totally get it. Let's talk a little bit about customer insights and engagement. Um, what are some of the biggest mindset or operational shifts that you've seen when it comes to how brands think about customer insights and engagement?
Very similar train of thought, but it's bigger than those one-to-one interactions. And so how are you going out into the world and collecting that customer input beyond your core customer base, right? Like the your NPS score and your contact center experiences, but looking at the world of social. Where are
Mm.
there chat forums that are talking about your brand? Where are people posting on X and Meta? And also like broader awareness and surveys and really collecting that information at large is so much more important than just analyzing the actual interactions that you're having. And I think that is what is growing, where I hope to see companies continue to go, is breaking down those silos.
Hmm.
The teams that tend to be looking for and excited about the insights aren't always the same teams that currently have the customer data. And so, well, it's great. I'm certainly, everyone's got to start somewhere. I do think the next phase that we're starting to see is how do we bring that all together in an integrated manner and really have that holistic view of what is happening for a brand across your different focus areas.
Sure, man. You really pinpointed one of the biggest problems that so many organizations have is that uh, the people with the data are not sometimes are often not the teams that are gathering insights on the data. So what's the difference between the listening to customers and really, really understanding them, and how do we make that? How do brands make that connection?
I think the biggest opportunity is looking at it in a holistic context.
Mm.
So going beyond, I'm gonna primarily focus on social with my answer here, but there's
Sure,
certainly broader implications.
of course.
Going beyond the, okay, we now have care on social platforms, right? And send me a DM. What's your account number? But looking at those common trends that people are talking about and leaning into them. But if you're not looking at that overarching landscape, it's really easy to get caught in little rabbit holes that maybe don't matter, aren't going to be as impactful as it might be as if you're saying, what really is that overarching sentiment? Where are people coming to us? How can we meet them where they are?
Mm. I wonder if you can tell us about a moment where your team uncovered something unexpected through social intelligence and how that insight impacted the outcome.
Yeah. We a couple months ago actually there was certainly an unfortunate situation, but we were really thrilled to be able to help. A congresswoman had been
Mm.
receiving some harassment from an employee via digital care. I think it was private messages. And after several weeks of this, I presume she was not on social media every day. She shared her story on X, and it was screenshots of the conversation. It was really horrific, but our team was able to catch it within, I think it was like 3 minutes,
Wow.
definitely under 10. Our threshold is we're going to get everything under 10 minutes. So um and flag the situation, and this allowed the company to escalate to the very top immediately. So within a number of hours, they had parted ways with the employee and were able to put out an apology, have all of the proper communications, and it actually came full circle. During that time frame, there was a lot of social chatter, a lot of frustration, but the congresswoman followed up with, "This was handled really well. I really appreciate the quick support," and it really changed the tone and allowed the company to come off as somebody who cares and is going to take care of their customers, and support their politicians. And it turned out to be a really nice brand moment. It was for
Mm.
something that could have gone south pretty quickly.
Oh man, and the stakes are so high with so many of these situations and crises that you and your team deal with. I don't know how you sleep at night. I think I would just be stressed out so
Sometimes we
often.
don't, but we try to rotate through, and everyone gets a few hours.
I'm going to talk about your team a little bit because I've had over the last number of months some interaction with your team, and I think I've always been impressed with them, with their generosity, their passion for what they do. They all seem to really like and enjoy each other. And I think a lot of that is based on your leadership. I'm wondering, for those of our listeners who are leading teams out there, what are some principles that you like to employ as a leader to keep your team motivated and to make sure that their employee experience is fantastic?
Yeah, so I think there's an added level. Athena as a whole has a really great culture. We're a
Mm,
very collaborative place, and that trickles through to the individual teams. But to your point, the social listening and brand reputation space does tend to be high stakes and high stress. There's um sometimes we get the nice stories, but a lot of the time what we're looking for and what we're reporting on is the darker stuff, right? And so I think it comes back to that collaboration and support. That's for first and foremost in everything we do. How can everyone work together? Who has some time and can raise their hand and jump in? And I think once that starts, once you set that tone, it grows and kind of spirals. There are days where we've got too many volunteers to help
mm.
out on something, which is a great problem to have. At times, not everyone has time. We're like, no, no, stay focused, please. But so I think that's really the foundation. And then we try to have a little fun, like
Mhm.
our group chats have some great memes in them. People definitely try to find the levity in the situation. And that also helps.
I believe in you. I was wondering if there's one mistake that you see brands repeat when it comes to listening to their customers.
So there's definitely a need to think about the carrying goal and
Mm,
how you are handling those one-to-one relationships.
sure.
Um, but I think a lot of companies look at that and say, okay, we have a team that's now, taking phone calls and doing chats. So we're
Right.
good. We checked the box. And the broader social listening landscape has so much there. It can't be someone's fourth or fifth job. If
Yeah.
you want to actually get value out of it, it is an investment, and it's an investment in people, process, and tools. Who's doing this? Who can take the time to learn it? Or are you working with a partner? Um, do you have the right tools? And we're big fans of Sprinklr, so I think that's the big thing I give brands. If you're a major company, make the investment. It's absolutely worth it. But
Mm.
um, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. But you do need to make an intentional effort. It can't be like, hey, Susie over here is like just doing a quick skim through social media for 20 minutes each day, and we're checking the box, because you're not going to get anything valuable out of that.
Is there a piece of advice, because you were sort of touching on it, that you would give to a brand or an organization trying to navigate the noisy digital world today? You were sort of touching on it, and I wonder if there's anything else valuable. We're mining all your wisdom and insights, Sean.
Of course. Figure out your priorities. What are the areas that you're concerned about as a brand that you want to have your eye on? And that might be internal challenges where you're like, this continues to be a pain point. How can we get a bit more information about
Mm,
it? Or it might be, this is our latest product and we want to sell it, and it's all we want to sell. And we want to know everything everyone is saying about it so that we can uh, continue to improve our sales. So I do think that business priorities and being really clear about that is a really helpful starting point.
mhm.
And then in addition to priorities, any big changes you're making. Um, I think of course AI is a big part of the conversation, especially in the experience space. And as you're rolling that out, which all companies should be, especially major ones, um, making sure you're doing it right. and that you're not causing more harm. So yeah, get really clear on priorities and pick where you want to focus. And if with some of our Fortune 50 companies that we work with, our priorities are 150. Like we have specific topics, people focused on different things. It gets really large. But it's okay if you're starting with one or two and saying that's where we're going to start collecting these insights and building out our strategy in a better manner.
That's great. I want to circle back to tools. A lot of organizations still think of social listening as a reactive tool, but how do you reframe the conversation to show the strategic value of proactive insight?
The easiest place to start is competitor insights. So whenever there's like macro moments in our country, world, one of the things we work with our clients on a lot is how are other brands reacting and what is the population at large feeling about that reaction? But doesn't even have to be in your industry or specific to your brand, but how are other companies reacting and is it helping you? Is it helping them? And this all happens very quickly, right? It's not like you have 4 days to sit around and say, what did the other Fortune 50 companies do? How do we want to react? It's in a matter of an hour or two. Here are the first people to respond. Everyone hated everything they put out. Let's just sit tight for a little bit longer. Or, hey, people are reacting really well. Like, hit send on your message. It's time. You have a really well-crafted note. Let's get in the conversation. So I think that's one area where we have a lot of success in the proactive front.
It strikes me as one of the primary goals that Athena has to do sort of reputation management, right? And protection. And so often now I see people, like well-known people, destroying their reputations with an ill-placed tweet or just like some really miscalculated PR move that just didn't go over well, and the reaction is sort of devastating to their brand or their job or their reputation or whatever. Do you ever do like a face palm and go, I can't believe this person just said that? Or like, is there a commonality of mistakes that you see people doing? Like they really haven't thought it through before they hit send on that tweet. I'm just wondering, like, some of the horror stories that you've seen.
Yeah, certainly. I'm trying to think of a good one. I think
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
probably the most problematic is like the rogue executive.
The rogue executive.
And they're getting fewer and far between, but I think it tends to be someone clearly not part of your like comms department.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the common thread tends to be a little bit newer within an organization. And just sharing their feelings a little too much, right? And it's amazing how quickly that turns into like a full-blown brand crisis.
Right.
And people think, oh, we pulled it down in 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. There are screenshots.
It's out there. Yep.
It was too late. What I think is becoming more common though is I always feel funny using the term activists because I feel like they're they have an agenda.
Sure.
Put it that way. But individuals who've built these big followings, attacking brands. And to a point where, there's a handful that we watch them specifically because when they go after a brand, it's so detrimental. And so that's definitely been an increase in recent years of just one individual deciding what cause they're against, and any company that has advocated for that or isn't fully aligned with their beliefs becomes a target.
Right.
And they'll go digging. They'll find the bad customer experience story. They'll find the policy that was put out 10 years ago, and really bring it to life for their millions of followers. And so that's something that's become, I think, a new level of the PR and comm space, is how easy it is for individuals to launch that narrative.
Right. And, social media just makes it so easy to make a mistake, first of all, or if you are an activist, to, place a target on the back of a corporation and just get everyone in on it. So how do you, as a brand, how do you protect yourself against that sort of thing?
Big part of it is that awareness. So a lot of these people, there's a certain pomp and circumstance about it, right? They don't there doesn't tend to be a sneak attack. Occasionally there is, but it's about understanding who are these actors, who are they going after, and really having that awareness of the landscape at large, so that you can make sure that you're ready, right? And it may go so far as to say, hey, these are the types of attacks that 4 other companies have gotten. Let's have our statement ready.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to need to tweak it, but how do we really get ahead of that conversation so that when it's our turn, for lack of a better phrase, we're prepared and we have something thoughtful to put out, because it does tend to follow the same pattern.
Well, that's a spectacular advice. Really just sort of being on your toes and making sure that your rogue executives are kept in place. So funny. Seana, you've been very, very generous with your time, your wisdom, your insights, your stories, and expertise. You've made us all a little CX wiser today, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me, Nate. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Seana.